Welcome to another Founder Wisdom podcast, Chairman Edition. We have Dr. Toby Malichi with us today. He is founding executive chairman and head of global development and investment at Malichi Group Worldwide. We're going to talk about international trade, politics, and the world, because the world is a playground. This podcast is brought to you by podpire.com. If you want to start, scale, or be invited to a podcast like this one, you can go to podpire.com. Toby, can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about what you're up to nowadays?
Well, I normally don't like to talk about myself, so I'm very humble in that regard. But let me say, Charles, I thank you for the opportunity to come on and speak with the audience for a few moments and to share what thoughts and wisdom that I have, and hopefully it'll help someone achieve their goals. I founded my own company, Malichi Group Worldwide, over 41 years ago. We're in over 70 countries around the world. I started that firm, founded my firm after I resigned from General Motors Corporation. I was over all General Motors Corporation Chevrolet Motor Division, earning the prestigious corporate General Motors ring. And I advised the White House administration on trade and free trade agreements. And this is my sixth consecutive administration. And worked on, as I said, NAFTA, the very first NAFTA, been to Mexico as well, and did a trade deal in Mexico, Monterrey. And just really enjoy people. I'm a purpose-driven leader that respectfully I'm called the global godfather of all things trade.
Pretty impressive. What have you learned from your long career that is 40 years of doing international commerce, dealing with various cultures, dealing with various economies? What have been your top insights?
That's an excellent question, important question. Is that one, the world is your oyster. And here in the United States, I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana, 95% of our customers are outside the borders of the United States of America. And I found that if you respect one's culture around the world, it opens doors for you to open up opportunities for trade. And I also found that trade is a contact sport. It's not a business for the faint-hearted. You got to know what you're doing. But some of the insights that I've learned is that, for example, I'm in Indiana. I am a college Hall of Fame basketball player, which would be Indiana University, Indianapolis. So basketball in Indiana is indigenous. It's a given. When you're born, your mama don't give you a bottle; she gives you a basketball. And so, but around the world, what I've learned as Americans traveling around, that trade and barter is indigenous, a way of life, how people conduct business around the world. So I respect that. So I always tell people, listen, observe, and then try to learn a few things about the language.
What have you observed nowadays, VS back in your days, in terms of the world's cohesion and the world's division on a community and on a political level, especially in the US?
Yes. When it started out, the politicians were for the people. They really were, and they wanted to list. Particularly, it was great to start a small business. Back in the '80s. I live in Indiana. Indiana is ranked #1 in the country, easiest place to start a small business. And so you had politicians listen. I've had several leadership roles around the country, in Indiana and Washington, D.C., and around the world, promoting SMEs. I believe all my heart in small and medium-sized enterprises. As I said earlier, I believe that we can solve the world's problems, uh, uh, business through peace. I really believe that, one trade deal at a time. It appears now that amid the geopolitical unrest, the uncertain economics of the world today, and what I call the money grab or the power grab, that special interest groups, that there seems not to be a heart for the little guy. the little woman who built this foundation of these countries, of your country, countries abroad, so around the world. So I'm not real happy with our particular government right now in Washington D.C. I don't see how anybody really can be because they're not for the people.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I have a philosophy in which that capitalism, I do think it's a force of good and it's like the glue of the world. I do think that if people pay their taxes, if they employ people, if they trade goods, add value to me, trade money in return, it can be a force of good for the world. Nowadays, we're seeing that globalization is generalized in the world and everyone's trading with one another. How would you describe what's happening and what are the effects of a country banning trade with one another, like US sanctioning China or US sanctioning Russia? What are the global effects of that on the planet?
Another very important question. I'm not sure I have an answer for it. I have been involved on our side, the United States side, in the trade war, if you will, with China. We have offices in China. I've been to China a few times. Actually, I was the guest of Tung Chi Hall back in October 1, 1997, which on the great Chinese handover. So actually, Charles, I was on Everest's yacht in Victoria Harbor in Hong Kong when the agreement was signed. So we still do business with China. Like I said, we're an SME, so we're not on the level of a oh, I don't know, an Amazon or a Microsoft or an Apple, for example. So we can, kind of maneuver and groove and move, to get deals done. In terms of Russia, that's a tough one right there. That we just had this, the pullback because they're at war with Ukraine, and we at Malichi Group Worldwide try to avoid those tensions. We have enough to deal with full plate without adding other geopolitical risk and uncertainty to our plate.
Last week, I spoke with one of the lobbyists that was in charge to build the dome in Israel that actually neutralizes Hamas rockets this year. I have the honor to speak to you. You were in charge of NAFTA in parts. NAFTA, I mean, I'm from Canada, right? I'm in Mexico right now, so I've experienced NAFTA both ways. I've also visited in the US. I do consider myself an American over anything else from a cultural standpoint. That being said, it seems to me that the ROI on NAFTA was humongous. So what was the purpose of NAFTA when you helped draft it, and what have been the measurable effects up to this day?
NAFTA was our first free trade agreement in America. After Fast Track, after GATT, it was our first free trade agreement. Was it perfect? No, it's the first. It's like when you take your first girl out for a date. You do everything perfect? No, you don't. Do you like to go back and redo some things? But it did open up trade for North America, for Mexico, United States, and Canada, and so gave all of us an opportunity to export our goods and services outside, the borders of the United States of America. And we've always at Malichi Group Worldwide, we believe in a win-win situation. And so we just don't go in just to profit. We want our clients, our partners to profit as well. And I'm a firm believer in relationships. And that's what the free trade agreements do. They lower the barriers, gives us market access, and lets SMEs, for example, come in and do business and do it in such a manner that we don't get caught up in what I call the orgalytics. The orgalytics or the organizational politics. We don't have to deal with that.
Right. GM, what do you have to say about the government's rescue of GM in 2008? And then what do you have to say about Tesla, which is now 10x the size of GM and is like twice as young?
Yeah. Well, this my question I'm going to tell you is going to be very biased because I am a General Motors fan. I'm an ex-GM executive, and I know what GM had done for my life and my start and my build, and I know what they do in communities around the world that does not make its way onto the public scene. Things they do, for society, in neighborhoods and around that never makes it to. So I was for that bailout because simply, it helps people to have jobs so that they can take care of their family, pay their mortgages or their rent, for medication, for food, get their kids through college. So I for that. I would have liked to see a bigger bailout for SMEs. The same way because we are the driving force of the economy. Small businesses, and well, I still feel that we are. Now, in terms of Tesla, I don't know enough about Tesla to comment on it at all, other than a guy named Elon Musk, South African, came in, he started, and he scaled it.
Yeah, I know a thing or two about Tesla, and it's just the software approach to field that has been slow growing since the days of Henry Ford.
Hmm.
And it's valuated the same, it's valuated as a software company. So, and obviously he's brought a level of automation that is unprecedented, a level of innovation, and most importantly, a hardcore intensity amongst the leadership and executive team that is unprecedented. Elon sleeps on the tracks of where they build the cars, so quite the
Yeah.
intense guy, and I think he's gonna build the same with Twitter. I have a question for you though. You've seen what happened in the US with George Floyd, and you've been around for quite some time. You've occupied prestigious positions. You always had success, but you obviously saw the lesser good side of the medal in the US when it comes to racial inequity. What do you have to say on the topic, and do you feel we're headed in the right way in that regards?
Well, I pull no punches. People who know me, I pull no punches, and I hit you right between the eyes. I'm not pretentious. I'm not playing games with people. I have a say: if you want to play games, go to the park. Tricks are for kids. Go to the park and play. Racism is very serious. Is there racism in America? Oh, yes, it is. George Floyd was something that many of us were unfortunate. Man lost his life, and he had a daughter, but he brought a lot of things to life that a lot of us had been talking about experience for years and years and years and years. And so I was happy to see that many Americans who felt, they really did feel like, well, we don't have a problem with racism in America. We get along, things are fine. No, that is not the case. Is it still the case today? No, we still have problems. We still have major problems. Have there been some gains? You know, I'm a businessman. I like to do things in analytics and data, and is it measurable gains? No, I don't feel we have. And matter of fact, I feel blacks are losing ground in America, and it's evidenced by some of these positions they call diversity and equity, but a lot of them are being lost their positions because it was just maybe a band-aid for a problem, and now we'll move on to something else. So no, there is a problem. It will continue to be a problem until it be addressed. It has to be addressed really at a much higher level, in our government and Supreme Court to combat these kind of injustices, or it's going to continue on like it is. And I don't want to see that.
Right. How was LMK so successful back in his days? And do you feel that organizations like BLM are doing its justice when it comes to impact?
Mm-hmm. Two different time frames, two different generations. Dr. Martin Luther King Of course, position was nonviolent, and he broke a lot of ground and was consequently, was not able to see the fruits of his labor. And his famous "I have a dream" speech. I've been to the mountaintop. I may not get there, with you. So he had a feeling from God that he might not make it. Black Lives Matter. I don't know exactly what the platform is, and what I mean by that is that I am a person who understands sometimes you have to be firm in your approach to achieve your objectives. But I'm not so sure coming up through the turbulent 60s as I did that burning down buildings and places in our own neighborhoods is the right way to go. And then there's a lot of subversive groups that became a part of that. But I understand other agendas came a part of that. And so as a consequence, I'd like to see again from the analytics and from a metric standpoint, when it started and where we are right now, and have we advanced or have we moved the needle?
Seems you've accomplished a lot in your life. As we started our conversation, you seem to be wanting to spend time with the family and teach the next generation. What do you tell your grandkids in terms of advice on how to be successful in life?
Oh, well, that's a loaded question for me. It's a great question. I told you I have 5 children. Well, I lost a son, Kobe, to fentanyl, and his anniversary is coming up next month. He was my youngest son. I have 7 grandchildren. I'm expecting my first great grandchild in January of 2024, which will be a boy. And what I always say to my kids growing up is number one, keep God first. I've raised all my kids and grandkids to keep God first and foremost in their life. Number two, I've taught my kids that no one, and I mean absolutely no one, is better than they are. No one is better than they are. And number three, I teach my kids to have goals and dreams and a vision and work towards those goals and things, goals, vision, and dreams. And the other day, my kids reminded me, my grandkids said, Grandpops, Granddaddy, you told Daddy this, you told Daddy this, that we're a winner, we're a leader, we're a motivator. And that's the power of affirmation. I want them to be happy. I'm a winner, I'm a leader, I'm a motivator. And then I taught my kids to put back. No deposit, no return. So always put something back to help someone along who's less fortunate than you are.
Very inspiring. Well, thank you so much for today. Where can we find out more about you, Toby?
Well, please find me on LinkedIn, Dr. Toby Malichi, our Malichi Group Worldwide. I could be Googled under Dr. Toby Malichi or Toby Malichi, Malichi. Our website is malichi.com. Very simple. malichi.com. Come to us, reach out on WhatsApp. I'm very easy to get in contact with. My company motto is "We doze, but we never close." So I'm always up doing something with my people around the world. So we're in over 70 countries. So very simple. I want people to email me, call me, 317-515-8866. That's my private number. I'll pick it up, I'm not busy, and we'll talk. I love to talk, regardless of the time around. So I want people to know that. And my favorite words have always been, have a successful day and think globally.
Thank you so much. That was another CEO Wisdom Podcast.com with Dr. Toby Malichi and Charles Cormier as your host.